So we're learning a lot here, right? A lot about who Colonel John J. Hardin is, who James M. Meade is. Excuse me. So we have, what we got going on here? The Cherokee were among the founding members of the Native Americans Western Confederacy, though the Americans identified the followers of Dragon Canoe as Chekommia, as distinct from Cherokee, who abided by the peace treaties of 1777. There is no separate tribe or band known as Chekommia. They identified as Cherokee. So Chekommia is the Cherokee. Dragon Canoe told Richard Henderson and Daniel Boone that Kentucky was dark and bloody ground, that they'd have trouble settling it. Dragon Canoe refused to sign the Transylvania deal with Richard Henderson and Daniel Boone during the years of the Confederation. There had been insufficient congressional support for any significant action against the nations on the western frontier. The British supported the northwestern tribes from the frontier bases that they continued to occupy after the Revolutionary War ended. In the violation of the Treaty of Paris, and the Cherokee and Creek continued to contest illegal encroachment of colonial settlers on their lands. In October 1790, Henry Knox organized a campaign led by General Josiah Harmar into the Northwest Territory in retaliation for Native American raids against the colonial settlers in that territory and that present-day Kentucky. So they were sitting there saying send Harmar out there because of fucking retaliation and shit that was happening in Kentucky, and that's why you got General John J. Hardin out there in the fucking fields with Harmar, with Hardin's defeat. The Battle of Helen's Corner is also known as Hardin's defeat. So the Battle of Helen's Corner. Hardin County is named after a motherfucker who is like Colonel Custard, his last stand. Hardin's defeat. So he's known for his not a military victory, but a military loss. And then eventually he gets murdered by the Shawnee that he'd been killing for a long ass time anyways. So, from 1784 to 1789, there's considerable violence between the American settlers and the Shawnee and Miami Indians in Kentucky. So, 1784 to 89, violence between American settlers and the Shawnee and Miami Indians along the Ohio River. So, Shawnee and Miami Indians keep on fucking attacking Kentucky. So, Miami Indians, this is important, or the Miamia. And so, there's 1,500 settlers killed by the Indians, but there's no general war. In 1789, George Washington wrote to the governor of the Northwest Territory, Arthur St. Clair, asked him to determine whether the Indians living along the Wabash River and the Illinois River were inclined for war or peace with the U.S. St. Clair decided the tribes wanted war, called for militia forces to be assembled at Fort Washington, now Cincinnati, Ohio, and Vincennes, Indiana. The oldest European town in Indiana, Vincennes was officially established in 1732 as a second French fur trading post in this area. The Compagnie des Indes commissioned a Canadian officer, François-Marie Bissot, Sieur de Vincennes, to build a post along the Wabash River to discourage local nations from trading with the British. De Vincennes found the new trading post near the meeting points of the Wabash, White River, and the Overland Buffalo Trace. De Vincennes, who had lived with his father among the Miami tribe, was able to convince the Piankeshaw to establish a village at his trading post. He also encouraged Canadian settlers to move there. So the Piankeshaw were there. The Piankeshaw, this is John J. Hardin attacked the Piankeshaw. So this is about the establishment of Vincennes. President Washington and Secretary of War Henry Knox ordered General Harmar to lead these forces on the punitive expedition into the Shawnee and Miami lands as retaliation for the killings noted above and to deter the tribes from further attacks. Primary objective of the campaign was the destruction of the large Maine Miami village of Chekommia, present-day Fort Wayne, Indiana, where the St. Joseph and St. Mary's rivers join to form the Maumee River. St. Clair and Harmar also planned to build a fort there, but when St. Clair presented his plan to Washington in New York, August 1790, the president decided that a fort would be too vulnerable and too expensive. Harmar's campaign and the second one in 1791, led by territorial Governor Arthur St. Clair, both failed in the objective of pacifying the Native Americans, and Henry Knox was widely blamed for the failure to protect the frontier. Seeking to close the issue before he left office, he organized an expedition led by Anthony Wayne that brought the conflict to a meaningful end with the 1794 Battle of Fallen Timbers. Wayne's troops had burned immense fields of corn for a stretch about 50 miles along the river in a move that affected civilian non-combatants. So that's fucking terrorism. Straight up just fucking terrorism, right? They're attacking the civilians. Result of American military action led to the Treaty at Greenville, which forced the defeated Native Americans cede lands in the Ohio area. Bloody campaigns that Secretary Henry Knox oversaw in some cases involved armies many times larger in later battles, 1870s. Native American nations refused to remove from their lands without a fight, and they opposed the Americans' attempt to forcefully remove them in warfare by trickery or treaties. Since they had owned and lived on the lands for thousands of years, one group of Americans wanted direct Indian removal and the mass extermination of any tribe on land it wanted. Washington and Henry Knox also wanted the land, so they're land speculators. Henry Knox are land speculators. Washington's land speculators. Daniel Boone's land speculators. Richard Henderson, land speculators. Richard fucking Meade, James Meade, and fucking Hardin, they're land speculators. They generally, though not always, felt the use of force would be too costly to Americans and sought other means to take Native American lands. Instead, Knox at first recommended a continuation of British policies, furnishing the native nations with livestock, farming implements, and missionaries in order to pacify them. After failing to appease the Cherokee and Creek with the large cachet of gifts in 1789, Henry Knox eventually signed the Treaty of New York on behalf of the nation in 1790, ending conflict with some but not all Cherokee tribal units of the genocide of the native populations in the nation's most heavily populated area. Henry Knox wrote, "A future historian may mark the causes of this destruction of the human race in sable colors." Right, because you're a fucking piece of shit who's murdering lots of fucking innocent fucking people. Noam Chomsky claims that the nation's leaders knew what they were doing and often used language saying they were the natives' benefactors, philanthropists, and humanitarians, when in reality they were engaged in genocidal practices of extermination and Indian removal. In fact, Henry Knox said that Europeans and Americans were doing to the native nations that were so harmful that our modes have been more destructive to the Indian natives than the conduct of the conquerors of Mexico and Peru. Holy shit. So they're saying their modes are actually fucking shittier than the ways that Mexico and Peru was taken over, and that was fucking Cortez, right? Cortez, who just wipes out the entire fucking Aztec nation, just wipes the whole fucking thing out. And so he's saying that the Northern American Indians were treated worse than the South American Indians, and that's fucking fascinating to me. I feel that's probably true. He says he went on to cite that the fact where there was white civilization, there was other extirpation of natives, or almost none left. So anytime whites were there, all the fucking natives had been wiped out, regardless of whether Americans wanted to obtain Native American lands by purchase, conquest, or other means. There would be no lasting peace while land remained the object of the American Indian policy, which continued after Henry Knox left office. Washington's policies, as carried out by Secretary Knox, set the stage for the rise of Tecumseh. Many thousands of Native Americans refused to accept treaties, claiming that they had not approved them and that their only purpose was to remove them from their lands. They specifically signed the Treaty of Greenville and reoccupied ancestral lands, beginning renewed resistance in the Northwest that was finally crushed in the War of 1812. On January 2nd, 1795, Henry Knox left the government and returned to his home at Thomastown, now in Maine, but still part of Massachusetts, to devote himself to caring for his growing family. He was succeeded in the post of Secretary of War by Timothy Pickering. Shays' Rebellion Constitution was written to subdue this rebellion. Tecumseh's Curse. The Prophet's Curse killed Henry Harrison, Battle of Tippecanoe. Indiana Union troops took Shawnee native lands, burned Prophetstown. Patrick Henry is a land speculator, didn't give a shit about Moluntha and Cornstalk's assassins. Although the Perriman expedition, Benjamin Lyon, Andrew Hines set up outposts 1776, serious penetration of Kentucky country west of Salt River's rolling fort by prospective settlers began in 1780, when stations were established by Hines, Helm, Haycraft, and Van Meter. Earliest pioneers came primarily from the Monongahela Valley, and they were soon joined by Catholic families coming by various routes from St. Mary's County, Maryland. George Washington surveyed Louisa, Kentucky, maybe not himself, but through somebody. The Fox tribe is also known as the Meskwaki. So the Meskwaki are the Foxes, and the Meskwaki are closely linked to the Sauk people. So the Sac or the Sauk people, and you got the Meskwaki. So the Sauk people and the Meskwaki, they call themselves the Meskwaki. They're known as the Red Earths. So the Red Earths. Historically, their homelands were in the Great Lakes region. The tribe coalesced in the St. Lawrence River Valley. So here's some, I'm going to end some words off, Tecumseh's words. No, I'm not going to end it, but I'm going to talk. Okay, so Tecumseh says, so live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion. Respect others in their view and demand that they respect yours. Love your life, perfect your life, beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long in its purpose in the service of your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day when you go over the great divide. Always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting or passing a friend, even a stranger when in a lonely place. Show respect to all people and grovel to none. When you are risen in the morning, give thanks for the food and for the joy of living. For if you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies only in yourself. Abuse no one and no thing, for abuse turns the wise ones to fools and robs the spirit of its vision. When it comes to your time to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home. Tecumseh tries the tomahawk William Henry Harrison at Vincennes, Indiana, which was the first permanent white settlement in Indiana in 1705, way before 1774, when Kentucky was finally settled. The town of Frankfort likely received its name for an event that took place in the 1780s. American Indians attacked a group of early British American pioneers from Bryan Station who were making salt at a ford in the Kentucky River. So eventually it's Frank's Ford. I forget the guy's name. I think I say a good name. That's a good question too. Who's the pioneer? Who's Frankfort named after? Frankfort named after. I think it's Patrick Frank. But that's a good Kentucky history question. Yeah, that's all I got for now. That's all. You know, you got Henry Knox. So I guess I'll tie it all together. Henry Knox, who's Fort Knox. That's who they named Fort Knox after. Then we got John J. Hardin, who they named Hardin County after. And then we got James M. Meade, who Meade County was named after. And these are all just a bunch of Indian fucking genociders. They're all fucking killing fucking Indians. They're stealing people's lands. They're bloody, genocidal, fucking English-speaking, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant fucking psychos, okay? They're serial killing fucking pieces of shit. And yes, we can judge... this era can judge by their era. Yeah, they were shitty because it was accepted and shit back then, but it's not accepted today, and that means the whole fucking society was tainted. You know, when you think about the plantation culture, every motherfucker participated in the plantation culture. So if you was a fucking poor white and you was sitting there getting shitty at some black person because of whatever fucking racist shit you was taught, well, you the same as that fucking person, but since you attacking each other, you don't fucking see yourself, and so you all never fucking unite in order to overcome, you know, the oppression that you both are enduring. And so it's just like in Germany, they're teaching the young students right now to learn about the Holocaust and to learn about Nazi Germany, which they should, so that way Germany can learn to grow and go on. And Elizabeth Merkel, or Angela Merkel, is actually saying some incredible shit, saying that America's values and Germany's values are just completely different, because Germany's values is not about spying, it's not about militarism, it's nothing about fucking Nazi Germany shit at all, whereas America's all about Nazi Germany bullshit, spying, empire, imperialism, colonialism. And so where did all this come from? Well, it starts in the very beginning. So I think this is a good introduction into American history, Kentucky history, because we're named after the counties have names of these fucking genocidal maniacs, just like Andrew Jackson and some of the other fucking shitty people that we honor when they shouldn't be honored. These are not fucking, you know, Henry Watterson, the Ku Klux Klan. You got an expressway named the Henry Watterson Expressway. So why are we honoring these fucking psychopaths who did all these atrocious things? If anything, we should be honoring the good and the people who were heroic and actually stood up to the bullshit that was going on. So Simon Girty's and Tecumseh's and those people who actually, the Willis Russells of the world and Stephen Burbridges of the world. So we need to be paying attention to the heroes. And so when we, you know, make people who are not heroes into heroes, we actually take away the heroic luster from the true heroes. And we need to make sure that we don't do that. The truth is best when, you know, the truth is just best as the truth, with no embellishment, no, you know, this was great or this was horrible. John J. Hardin was a fucking genocidal maniac his entire fucking life. That's what he fucking did. And then James M. Meade was probably thinking about the great yesterday of these, you know, they overthrew the British and shit, but they killed a lot of Indians, so they thought, you know, let's go do what they were doing, and basically got slaughtered because of it. They didn't help nobody. That didn't help anything. And, you know, they want to say that Harmar's campaign and St. Clair's campaign was because of the Miami and Shawnee attacks on the settlements. Well, what about the settlements attacks on the Shawnees and the Miamis? I mean, my God, George Rogers Clark just fucking burned down villages. John J. Hardin, he had 12 Indian scalps that he was able to chop off, as well as fucking burning down a shit ton of Shawnee villages. That was John J. Hardin. So if you was, being killed by John J. Hardin, would you kill back? Of course you would.